Thank you very much. Can you hear me all right? Very good. So I want to thank you, John, for leading us here in this amazing day with this amazing event. So first, I would like to make a very quick summary of where we have been since this morning. So we started looking at, and Kellie, I want to use your words in the previous session. And you talk about the ecosystem of rugby. And so from the point of view, we started from the players, then we went to look at the history and the development of rugby. Then we went to the lens and the ecosystem from the point of view of the coaches. We have been looking at the experience of rugby and all the impact that rugby is having. And in the last two, we were looking at the World Cup of possibilities, and also we have been focusing our lens in the growing of rugby in the US. In this last session, we would like to look at the future of rugby in general, not only in the US. So I would like to introduce all of you guys, but I would like you first to give us from which lens, which is the ecosystem of rugby that you are coming from. And I would like to start with Selica. Could you tell us a little more?
Yeah, so I'm still a current player. I have started to transition into reffing, but my passion still lies as a player. But I guess for me, I'm coming towards the end of my rugby career, and before I finish, I wanted to see what other pathway was available for me in rugby. I mean, rugby has given me so many opportunities, and I've built so many friendships and been able to create quite a network. It was how I could give back to the game of rugby that's given me so much. And I consider myself to still be rather active, so I didn't want to jump straight into coaching or becoming a manager. I still wanted to be on the field somehow, and I thought the next best thing would be becoming a referee. So I've started those steps and kind of got to places quicker than I anticipated. Already been to the Olympics, on the World Series as a sevens ref. And it's given me a bit of an insight as to a different pathway within rugby, and that it's kind of opened my eyes that there's a lot more to rugby than just being a rugby player itself. And I want to inspire younger boys and girls to continue to play the sport. New Zealand is well known for producing pretty good rugby players. We've got some pretty good records with both the Black Ferns and All Blacks, and the only way that can continue is if we bleed through new players. And I know in the women's game we struggle, even at grassroots level, so club, it's a big struggle to continue to bring through the youth that leave school and get them into playing rugby. And club rugby is something that I know across New Zealand we struggle to get a format where the games are quality. You kind of have some blowout scores, and it doesn't help either team. And so it's finding ways to stop that from happening. And I know that now we have, under 15 programs, under 18 programs. And by putting those age caps on it, it allows girls to play with girls the same age or thereabouts, and generally they're kind of the same size, and they're not forced to going from schoolgirl rugby straight into the women's game, because for some that's quite a step up. And so we're starting to get these small steps in place which allow girls to develop, and by the time they're able to play in the women's competition and look at Black Ferns, their skill level is going to be a lot higher than the likes of mine was, because I went straight from schoolgirl rugby into women's rugby, and the next step from provincial is straight into a black jersey. So we're missing quite a few steps along the way in comparison to our male counterparts. But like I said, times have changed. Next year will be the first time that New Zealand has a female version of Super Rugby. Yeah. It might only be short, but it's definitely a stepping stone in the right direction. And again, it's everything that we do for the women's game, it needs to be sustainable, because if it isn't, it's kind of like a one-off competition tournament and then we've lost it. And so in the women's game, we're about ensuring that the competitions that are provided for us are of quality. It's a standard of rugby that people want to come back and watch. They enjoy it, and that it can continue, for future years ahead, because we want people to come and watch women play rugby. We don't really want to be known as women rugby players. We just want to be known as a rugby player. But that's going to take a bit of time. And, sometimes it's hard to change people's perceptions of females playing rugby. But I know after the last World Cup in 2017, the amount of people across the world that tuned in to watch that final, Black Ferns versus England, the numbers were huge. And the amount of people that thought, oh, I'll watch women's rugby for the first time, they were blown away by the standard and quality that we could play rugby. And, it's small steps like that, changing mindsets, changing the perception of females in the game of rugby that used to only be known as a male-dominated sport. That's what's going to help to create a positive change in mindset for people, or especially females wanting to play the game.
Thank you, Selica. And how amazing is for us to have you as one of those you have been made possible that transition and that image, right? Being participant as a player, and also now as a referee, and who knows if maybe you want to come back, right? And keep playing.
Yeah.
Kellie, thank you for sticking with us, and let us continue with this idea of the importance of integrating, right? A player of rugby is a player of rugby, right? But you have done so much for the sevens and integrating, making these steps that Selica is mentioning, especially with all these events that you have been creating. What can you tell us about the ecosystem that you are participating from in rugby?
Yeah, absolutely. Great to be here. Great to join you all. From my position right now, my focus is on Rugby Sevens and the growth of the game in North America. From Premier Rugby Sevens, our goal is a professional league in North America that highlights the talent that we have here. We were successful 2 weekends ago in delivering our first, inaugural championship that involved players from the US, Canada, Mexico, and Brazil even, all who are eligible to work in the US and Canada. And it's exciting to sort of see that development. The thing that's really unique about, what we are doing is this idea of equality. And sevens is a really interesting game because it is newer on the sort of global stage than 15s is, because of the short format, because of the ability to integrate the men's games and the women's games back to back. It gave us an opportunity when we think about, how do you present it equally? We had a all day, a publicly available broadcast, but the last 2 hours of our event, we showed a women's constellation, a men's constellation, the women's championship and the men's championship. And so Selica, like what you said was that, the opportunity for folks to see the quality of rugby that the women were playing in the Rugby World Cup gave the opportunity for growth in viewership and potentially the growth in participation. And that's our same goal here with PR Sevens, using sevens as a way to develop elite players, but also grassroots players and fans, spectators, and participants in other ways. in the game. So that's sort of where I'm coming from at the moment. And I do think that the US has a strong background in this. When we were creating the bid for what eventually became the 2018 Sevens World Cup in San Francisco, the basis of that bid was the equal delivery of the men's and the women's competitions as well. In the prior Sevens World Cup in 2013, that was not at all the case. And so the US being a place that has legislation and growing support. We won't say that it's always perfect because it's not, but growing support for the value of women's sport participation makes it a unique place to try and develop a league that says from the beginning, in line, with the laws of the game and the equipment and everything, that this is equal and, it should be promoted and celebrated equally.
Thank you. Thank you very much as well for the work that you are doing from that part of the rugby ecosystem. I would like to bring you from France, and which is your experience from your ecosystem when you are teaching and you are doing research and you are participating from this area in the impact that we are having for rugby.
Thank you, Alejandro, and good evening to all. I'm a university professor of sport marketing and management, and I'm not a rugby participant. I do other sports, handball especially, but I'm a follower of rugby and a spectator of rugby. I also, like you said, I teach students and future students who will be, for many of them, some of them, but also many of them with a future World Cup involved in rugby. And my question would be, what kind of rugby are we talking about? And maybe the question would be, or the topic would be about rugbies. Because depending on the country, obviously the format of rugby, whether it is 7, 15, 13 in a way, why not 10 in 10 years? I think the evolution, the meanings and the positioning will be very different. My colleague Olivier Nier mentioned that earlier, saying that mainly in France, it is about 15 union, rugby union. Sevens, we have good teams, good players, but I'm not sure there is mass participation at the moment for this format.
Yes.
There is mass participation for 15. Sevens are more like, I would say, a spectator sport at the moment. So my question would be also, so the format and to link with what was said before, rugby, women rugby, men's rugby, rugby for all, rugby for young, rugby for oldest. I remember traveling to Australia and seeing people, just throwing the ball, the rugby ball in a park. And they were, 40s, 50s years old. You couldn't see that. You can't see that in France. You would see a soccer ball, but not a rugby ball. So you see that I think it depends on the type of rugby we're looking at. And also whether we talk about rugby as a participation or rugby as a spectacle. Some sports are very, very successful from a viewership or spectatorship point of view without having many masses. Like for instance, biathlon is highly popular, but very, very few individuals take part in biathlon. Is it one of the future of rugby or for 15? I don't know, but I think this is what's interesting and challenging in this.
Thank you, Ju, for bringing that aspect of the future of rugby, right? Because yeah, it's not only one type of rugby. And this week, especially, I've been listening about these differences between 10th and 13, and yeah, that could be a different evolution. It could be part of all this ecosystem that the sport is something that we cannot do that in soccer, right? We cannot have, unless we are playing in a different type of league, but changing the game in that way is not going to be the same. But in rugby, we already have done that, right, with 7 and 15s. So very good, interesting perspective there. Let us bring Leandro. Leandro, how are you doing? Are you in Buenos Aires? You are mute, I think. Can you unmute yourself? Let me try to do it for you. I cannot unmute you from.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, no, yes,
Okay.
perfect. Leandro, perfect.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Alejandro. No, I'm a rugby coach from Argentina, but now I'm in Mozambique, Africa.
Amazing.
Yes, I'm co-founder of Women's Rugby Land of Freedom. This is an international project created by Erica Morri, and we are developing people through rugby here in Mozambique, and also creating ecosystem across the world through different rugby activities. Talking about the future of rugby, in my coaching vision, I believe that emerging countries from Africa, the Americas continent, Asia, Europe, are growing faster, and also I include in the new tournaments, and this is amazing. This is the way to grow our game. This is the way to improve rugby across the world. In my opinion, all we are part of the same family. Rugby is like a family. Each family is an ecosystem. So we need to create link, bridge, partnerships, and work together to promote the game around the world.
I love that, Leandro. Yes.
Some countries are using the rugby sevens to enter in the international landscape. For example, Kenya, China, and others. But this is a first step to become a powerful nation in the 15 games.
Yes.
Other countries are using the 15 games to be part of the world family, the global family in rugby. Anyway, I believe that 7s or 15 is a good first step to be part of this ecosystem in the world.
Yeah. Yes. Thank you very much for joining us as well from Mozambique. I would like to go back to Selica. I know that you have to leave, and Jeremy, we would like to give you this time before you leave, so we can get from your wisdom something that is super interesting from your you as a player, an amazing player as well, with a lot of give and capacity. Now as a referee. In the previous session, we were talking about growing, right? Yes, this growing needs to be also balanced, right? We need more referees, more venues, more pitches, more. But what about the quality and the training of the referees? Which has been your experience going from a very gifted player now as a referee? How that as a player help And what do you see we need in order to grow this for the future, to have more trained referees and all the other things that we need for this sport to keep growing?
Yeah, that's quite a tough question. I think for me, being a player, transferring into becoming a referee, law seems to be a bit of a tricky one, because as a player, we don't tend to agree with some of the calls.
Yes.
Given, you know, some of the situations you get put in, yes, it might be the law, but realistically, you know, could we really get out of that ruck or so forth? And so for me, I kind of was reffing through a little bit of a player's lens and wouldn't necessarily go and yellow card somebody because I didn't feel that it was as intentional as what some other referees would perceive that to be. And so, yeah, for me, even though I understood the law, sometimes I don't agree with it. So I may not make the call that I should, but that's because I'm coming from a player point of view. So, look, I think in terms of referees, it's until you become one, I don't think you actually understand how difficult it is out there. I mean, I know as a player, you're like, oh, come on, ref, like, how did you miss that? Or why did we not get the ball? You know, why is that call gone against us? But when you're out there, and even in the game of sevens, you know, there's only 14 people on the pitch at one time, but sevens is a fast game. And you really have to be on the ball, and you've got to have a good understanding of how teams are wanting to play the game so that you can kind of preempt where that ball's going to go and what you're trying to look for. But, you know, if all you hear is negative criticism, your confidence drops and you think, why should I bother? You know, why should I bother coming out here? I'm trying to help the game. The only way a game goes ahead is if you've got a referee in the middle officiating. But if all you hear is this negative banter, you know, about how poor you're doing out there, for younger referees, that's a turning point where they might think, that's enough for me. You know, like, I don't know why I should continue to do this. For me, I think I'm lucky. I'm a police officer, so I get abuse all the time. Negative, you know, like, you can never do anything right in that blue uniform. So when I put on the ref's uniform, it's very similar. And so I think I've just learned how to deal with that, and ensure that as long as I'm consistent with my performance out there on the field, even if I've got something wrong, but I'm consistent with both teams, then it's not as bad. But, you know, you look at the mental health issues we have across the world, you know, people committing suicide, and that high performance athletes committing suicide due to the pressure that they get put under, or not being selected for a team or for an individual sport, and what that can do. Same with a ref. Nothing's really different. You know, you've still got the pressures of going out there to perform, to ensure that we don't really hear that whistle going, that we're seeing free running rugby. And I mean, I try and tell players that really the only time a referee needs to get involved is when you've knocked the ball on, or you've, you know, put on a high shot. Other than that, the game should really flow, and players should take care of it themselves. But it's a tricky one. I enjoy it. Like I said, I'm not ready to give up completely. I still have a passion for wanting to play. There's a few more things I want to tick off before I look at becoming a full-time referee. But in terms of training in that, you know, it's a lot different. It's a lot easier on the body. There's no contact when you're worrying about refereeing. It's more just about running. But, you know, making sure that you have a good understanding of the law and a good understanding of the teams that you're playing, because it was touched on before, depending on what country you come from and what leagues you're playing in, the style of rugby is very different. You know, you've only got to look at the UK and the style they like to play. You know, a lot of mauls, a lot of rucks, whereas, you know, we love to throw the ball around, get it wide and try and score tries. So it's been able to adapt. And I think regardless of being a player or a ref, or a coach, that resilience and being able to find ways to channel positive energy to get the outcome that you're after, rather than worrying about the negative and kind of focusing on the wrong things.
Yes, thank you for that wisdom, right? And I think it's a lot of wisdom in what you have shared. Sometimes we have to put in the shoes of the others players within the ecosystem, right? As to understand the pressure that the referee has. So it's not only the training that we can provide to the referees, but also it's the training that we can provide to the fans and to all of us that we participate in this game from different angles and different ecosystems in order to protect the referees, the players, the coaches, right? All of them in different ways. They have different pressures, and also how we can support them in their own in their own role, right? So thank you for that wisdom. Jeremy, thank you for your wisdom in the first session, sharing with us. What is your take for this ecosystem and how we can make rugby to grow organically, more balanced?
Thank you, Alejandro. Just before I get to answering that question, I just wanted to acknowledge Selica this year with the Manawatu Cyclones women's team. They won the championship. First time, I think, since 2005, Selica, is that right? 16 years ago was the last time they won the championship. Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct. A bit too long, shall we say, but happy to have won it this year.
Congratulations again on an awesome season from the Manawatu Cyclones women, and perhaps that's one of those things that you've managed to tick off now before you decide to hang up the playing boots and put on those refereeing boots full time. And Constable Winata has to head off to work now, and go and get some more abuse on the street. So it's relentless, isn't it? It's never ending.
Never ending.
Especially in Palmerston North, when you're a person called Selica Winata, they're a ruthless bunch. So yeah, thanks, Shorty, and congratulations again, champ. Well done.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. So back to your question, Alejandro. I think that in terms of the ecosystem, before on my screen, my background was a group called WIRA, Women in Rugby Aotearoa, and that's a recent initiative, kind of on the back of a similar group called WISA, Women in Sport Aotearoa. So there's a big movement here happening in Aotearoa, New Zealand, that is rugby by women, with women, for women, and I'm really lucky to be have been asked to co-captain the research group. The Women in Rugby Aotearoa group is split into various different teams. There's a coaching team, a players team, a administrators team, a refereeing team, and I happen to be one of the co-captains of the research team. So we're pretty much doing it off our own backs, just voluntary, doing it for the love of the game, trying to promote women in rugby here in Aotearoa, New Zealand, and we're kind of building our own, I guess, infrastructure or organisation just out of a group of passionate volunteers who really care about advancing the game here in New Zealand for women. I'm a dad of two daughters, and you know, I look at the game and the state of the game, and I think, you know, do I currently, the current state of the game, do I want my girls to grow up and play rugby? And some things I think, yeah, there's some real benefits, but other things I think, well, first, you know, some things might need to change in that space before I let them transition from touch rugby into tackles. So yeah, there's a movement happening here, especially around the World Cup being here next year. And like Selica said, Women's Super Rugby, next year, expanding from this year we had a taster with the Chiefs playing the Blues, and expanding out now to the Hurricanes region, as well as the South Island team putting in a combined Crusaders Highlanders. So yeah, there's definitely structures are changing, the ecosystem's changing. It's this dynamic, evolving situation here in our context anyway, and I think also globally, it's happening across the world, which is great to be part of.
Thank you, Jeremy. I would like to look at something that has been happening throughout the day. This idea of partnership or working together, right? Maybe we were with a lot of energy working individually. This opportunity that we are having and we are launching here today with the Global Rugby Leadership Institute. So we are 8 universities from all over the world with all of you who are associates to this project. How we, as this movement, can we help each one of you in the work that you are doing in order to move rugby for the future? How this organization of working together, how is our in this leadership, what do you need from us?
I think we need to continue the momentum that I suppose John started with this initiative, and continue to gather allies and who can apply pressure in whatever country they're in, whether they're in Mozambique, France, USA, South Africa, wherever they are in the world, and just draw on each other's collective strength. And I think one of the things we're really good at doing here in New Zealand is knowledge sharing. We're pretty good at sharing whatever rugby intel and information we can share. So I think if we continue to share that knowledge, but disseminate it more widely with our allies in other countries, then that'll help advance the game in terms of the global visibility for opportunities for women in rugby. So yeah, that's networks like these that allow, say, the Women in Rugby Aotearoa group to connect with other movements and developments in other countries would be, I think, probably a great pathway forwards.
And there is a trend, right, Leandro? You are working also in another, this developing of women in Africa, and of course, Kellie, you are working with the Sevens both, but especially for and Selica, of course, and she has been one of the actors as a player and now as an ambassador. How, Leandro, how do you see this Leadership Institute? Something that we can promote your work in Africa.
Yes. I believe that we can do different rugby activities, connecting people. For example, for Mozambican players with the institute, connecting the professor, the people from the institute with African people, and also with other countries, with all our colleagues. Yeah. In terms of workshops, seminar, online webinar, exchange, international exchange. This is, I am talking as representative of the Mozambican rugby in this moment. I'm not talking as Argentinian coach. Nice. So the Mozambican players really appreciate all the support, all the foreign support, all the support overseas. And this is a good first step that we can create a bridge to develop different activities, studies, research, workshop. This is the best way to grow the game in Mozambique and other emerging countries.
Very good, thank you. Gil, what do you think, as also working from another university in Europe, right?
I think what we are living as much for the universities than for the sport is this globalization. And globalization represents in a way a great perspective, a great way of exchanging. I mean, the day was an evidence of that, you know, the exchange of knowledge, of practice, of understanding in order to develop the rugby or the rugbies. The challenge, however, is the globalization, to use the term, to adjust to our local situations, because this exchange is not, I would say, from the right to the wrong, or to the top to the bottom. It has to be adjusted, shared, and co-constructed. So I think that there's a double way in it. It's really about exchanging, but I think it's also more than that. It's also adjusting and adapting to the local specificities. I mean, in each country, and talking about country, even within countries, we've got different groups, and we've got different geographical regions and cultures, and so that's, I guess, the challenge, and what's exciting as well.
Yes, in one way, maybe we can use the combination of the two. Through this international partnership with all these associates and the institute, we have the capacity to make global and the interchange of all the local wisdom that we are living in our all places, right? And because the important thing is our local, right, community, but through the global, we can highlight those gifts that we have and how we are living in our own ecosystem, right? The rugby experience in each one of these countries and communities within our countries as well. Kellie, how do you see the work that you are doing, promoting with huge impacts that you are having with these amazing events? How the Institute can help you?
Thank you. I think that there's a couple of things. You know, we are an organization that's focused on North America with a sport that is not a dominant sport. And so a lot of our understanding of the game and the potential for it has to come from outside of the US, where it has been grown successfully. And like you was saying, you know, it wouldn't be exactly translatable but to come, you know, to understand the successes that have been happening elsewhere from a business and academic sense, to be able to synthesize those that we can have the best knowledge of successes elsewhere and apply them to our business model. I think that's an important thing. You know, something that John and I had spoken about previously is obviously the interconnectivity of the value of students and the innovative thinking of students and innovative thinking that happens in academic and university settings, and utilizing the energy of those individuals to help us direct what we're doing. So I think, you know, there is that opportunity as well. And then I think, you know, as we continue to grow as an organization, the just the publicity that, you know, what we are doing is in North America, but what the sport is global, and our audience, we hope, is global as well. And I certainly know that I stay up in the middle of the night to watch Sevens series events around the world, and people in rugby and other sports seem to adjust their sleep schedules for the things they like to see the most. So maybe, you know, next season we can have some of the same, where folks other places in the world find what we do so engaging. They've heard about it perhaps through you know, this network that, you know, they want to stay up in the middle of the night and watch what we have going on here in North America as well.
Thank you. Something that is, we are the last session, and I would like you to have our last 5 minutes. I don't see any questions that they are coming from the Q&A at this point, which that means something. You mentioned the idea of the family, right? Throwing the rugby ball. And I'm realizing throughout the day, I'm realizing how much we are all like a family, right? We love the sport. We love the way rugby, the culture, the gift that rugby has done for each one of us. And we want to keep investing our time, our talents, our gifts to pass on, as Kellie said, to students, our organizations, this spirit that rugby is worthy, rugby is working, and rugby is growing, and there is a lot of potential, not only in the US, but also all over the world, and especially in countries, developing countries in particular, right? So which are your last thoughts after we have been here all together, growing as a family? Like Leandro, please.
Maybe we can create an international tournament with all the associates, and also an awards. Sorry for the Spanish. Una premiación, premios.
Yes. Yeah. To provide gifts and prizes, right, for different events, right? International events, right? Yes. Jeremy, what is any thoughts that you may have?
Yeah, thank you, Alejandro. So I think in concluding, from being here at the first session throughout, and this is the last session, I think capitalizing on the momentum is really important, and I suppose one thing that we're guilty of, especially as academics, is we go to cool conferences and forums and things like this, and once we go home, we return back to business as usual. Yes. So there's a real opportunity here, I think, for us to just carry on this momentum that we've got the ball rolling. We're starting to throw it around and kick some ideas around, and that's great. But I suppose, yeah, your kick is only as good as your chase, right? So we need to chase down those opportunities. And look, who knows? The Women's Rugby World Cup's been hosted out here next year in Aotearoa, New Zealand. So there's a conference is going to be happening in terms of women's sport here in Aotearoa, New Zealand again next year. So look, there's a prime opportunity in 2022 to I suppose follow up from this, and then again in 2023 in France. So I suppose there's a prime opportunity. Let's carpe diem, I guess, seize the day.
Yes, thank you very much. Gio, which are your thoughts?
Just hope that as a family we won't be like my two boys who constantly fight. But I think in what Jeremy said, I think the idea of bridging is important, because in a way putting academics together or practitioners together and coaches together is quite easy, because each group, you know, has its own language, way of looking at things. And also you mentioned visions, you know, each group has its own vision for the sport and for what it should be. So I think one of the challenge would be to bridge these different groups and to be able to communicate and also do things together, you know, depending on the type of projects, not only on the knowledge sharing, but also on the, you know, on the doing side of things.
The events and programs, right, that they are happening all over the place, right?
Which requires all of us, you know, stepping a little bit aside or going out our comfort zone.
Totally. Thank you. Kellie, you are the last voice.
Coming not from the academic side,
Yes.
you know, maybe a little bit more of a direct thought. You know, there are have been a lot of us here participating and listening and asking questions and making comments throughout the day. And I wonder whether it's folks would take an assignment from me, but my recommendation would be, you know, mark down one person that you heard or that asked a question or that, you know, a topic that interested you, and make a commitment to reach out and follow up. You know, we can say we'll meet again in a year or in 2 years or 3 years or whatever it may be, but unless we are the meat of, you know, sort of making the connections and, you know, from an academic sense, maybe there's some new research partnerships that can come out of it. And from an administrative sense or playing sense, there are new relationships there as well. But I think, you know, commit to yourself and to the wider group right now, the one person or one organization that you're going to reach out to and find a way to make a connection, then we all become a better family and hopefully a, you know, more productive and successful one going forward.
Thank you. I echo your assignment, and I want to invite everyone to follow Kellie's assignment right from here at the Institute and our last session. So let us keep the dialogue. Let us find that person that we have been listening throughout the day, or that organization, to connect in the next tomorrow, starting tomorrow, right? So we are not losing the momentum that we have created today. So thank you everyone for participating. It has been an honor to meet you in person, and looking forward to all these connections and where the future of rugby is going, which is very bright.